Hello everybody, welcome to Raising Vibrations, and you're with Simon today. So, this is another chart of the day. I'm kind of getting into the swing of things with regards to doing these more often again. And I think today is a really great day to talk about the chart because there's a tremendous amount of things that I feel are contained in this astrology chart that are not necessarily about the actual astrology of the moment, even though we've had an experience take place in the collective that represents the astrology. So what am I talking about? Let's try and demystify the existence that is me in this conversation. Okay, so the first thing that I would want to do before I jump into the chart is just let everybody know that 2 years ago today I released the Learn Your Chart. And Learn Your Chart is a really revolutionary way of experiencing having to interact with your astrology chart. And so as a kind of celebration, I actually have a 25% discount on the Learn Your Chart experience. So if that's something that you would want to engage in the description below, there is an actual link to the video that shows you what Learn Your Chart is, as well as a way to book the experience. And I'm happy to write in the comments for anybody that's interested to understand more about it. So I really encourage you to, action upon that if you want to. Okay, Learn Your Chart. It's a really, really great way to experience learning what your astrology is through the 24 videos that, get sent to you. And then we have an astrology conversation. So we get really to the core of what your soul is trying to do here. Okay, so on Friday, if I'm not mistaken, Thursday, pardon my inability to have the specifics, a person by the name of Anthony Bourdain had passed, and according to the world's news, etc., this was through suicide. And for those of you that don't know who he is, I personally have a very limited sense of who this person is. He was a celebrity chef, and he was part of the Pluto Leo generation. So it's very much about the sense of public eye-ness, and I think it's had a very profound effect on people. This person's loss and suicide again was the kind of context of this, and it sparked up an amazing conversation that has now become all over the internet in that sense. And what I was talking about earlier with regards to that event and the astrology is a couple of, I think it was about 4 or 5 months ago, somebody had said to me, what is it going to be like when Saturn goes into Capricorn and we've got Neptune in Pisces and, Jupiter in Scorpio? And I was like, well, firstly, those are the archetypes of suicide. Those are the archetypes of when we choose to end our lives. And the reason why this is the case is because, and you can see this, look, Neptune, 16 degrees, Jupiter, Scorpio, Pluto, and Saturn all in Capricorn. And then you've got Uranus on the south node in Aquarius, right? So and then of course, Venus is in opposition to Pluto, right? So what does this all mean? Well, the archetypes of suicide are associated with Scorpio, Capricorn, and Pisces because so let's just start with the archetypes firstly. Scorpio is the decision to kill the life, to end the life, right? Scorpio, decision, choice. Neptune is the archetype that says, I'm overwhelmed, I'm disassociating, I want to leave, so I'm checking out. And Capricorn is the archetype that essentially materializes the Neptune-Scorpio energy, which is futility. It is the loss of meaning. It is the essence of it's pointless, and I'm going to keep trying, and there's no reason for it. There's no joy. There's nothing here. It's just completely and utterly absent of meaning. It's futile. So the futility linked with the choice, linked with the escape, is the archetypes that are associated with suicide. And you can see that astrology at the moment is bringing these themes to us. And it really, really is. It's a very deep experience because it's not something that's just exclusive to this person's passing, but it is something that's actually happening and on the rise. And it's a very serious conversation to have because it's pointing to this thing, and that is south node. On the south node of the moon is at 8 degrees Aquarius, while Mars is conjunct that, and it's in Aquarius. So we're dealing with society, we're dealing with the sort of collective frequency, and we're dealing with the process of how our society is emotionally fragmented and fractured relative to the traumas of the past, the repression of the past. And what have we repressed? Well, think about it. Think about the time that you as a person felt like you wanted to express your emotions in a way where there wasn't any fear of judgment, or there wasn't any fear of criticism, or being labeled, or shame associated with it. Think about those moments. We all have them. And the Capricorn archetype is judgment. It is the nature of how we create judgment, how we define things and how we judge things. And judgment inherently, when linked with the feeling of emotional safety, is something where when we are vulnerable in our lives, we don't want to share this deep, dark secrets. And all of us have this emotional pain that is associated with the way in which society is set up. Now, I'm not blaming society. I'm not saying that it's fault. I'm saying that as a human race right now, this shadow is coming up for us to really look at and to open up the conversation, in which we see how we divide each other and we divide ourselves relative to collective shame, relative to the definitions that we have labeled as good or bad, or successful or not unsuccessful. Here in this part of the world, here in Sweden, and I think this might be a collective experience, I'm not sure, but I just noticed it here in Norway and in Sweden, that there's National Gay Pride. And I thought it was such a very powerful message to reveal, because, you know, the world and society in its old paradigm thinking never understood same sexuality. And a lot of boys and girls that were growing up in their lives that had to nurture the different feelings and emotions that they had inside of themselves around their gender brought up a lot of shame, because society projected its own uncomfortability onto people and said, you're wrong. Think about just going back to, 50 years from now, 50 years in the past, and think about how we were very uncomfortable with sexuality being like two men openly sharing their affection, like how much of that's repressed. Just think about that, and then go deeper into the collective psyche and start to notice where there is a lot of emotional repression and suppression relative to judgments based on our outmoded thinking. So Jupiter in Scorpio, as it connects with Neptune, is really bringing to us this need to get into the process of these unconscious beliefs that we have around ourselves that have been repressed. Aquarius is the subconscious, that through the judgments, Capricorn, Pluto in Capricorn, Saturn in Capricorn, and how this needs to be openly communicated. Moon sign, not moon sign, but Mercury and the Sun all in Gemini, right? And what I find really interesting about today's conversation is that the Neptune is currently squaring my nodal axis, and the natal and the Mercury at 27 degrees Gemini is completely on my moon sign, and it is also opposed my Neptune. And my whole entire trip in this lifetime is to literally liberate myself from the judgments and internal conditioning patterns of the past, and to free myself from this thing. And I'm one of those people that is literally at a soul level needing to step into the realm of healing the repressed masculine and feminine parts of ourselves that were never accepted because of guilt and shame. And that by stepping into that role and beginning to nurture and nourish the language that is associated with healthy emotional expression without judgment, this is here. And this energy today on this chart is literally like moving through me as I share this, because I'm so intimately connected with it. And so the conversation that we need to be having with each other right now and to yourselves is, it's time to pick up the baton. It's time to pick up the spade or the chisel, and it's time to begin taking at least 1 hour out of your day and working on the emotional debris that sits within your subconscious and on your emotional layer that is linked with shame, that is linked with how you've internalized your own sense of inferiority, or where you've internalized or repressed or don't share the deep emotions that you have of fear, of criticism and judgment. And to be open about this experience and to really bring to the table to somebody that you trust these things. And it doesn't have to be a very big deal. It can just be taking time to acknowledge that part of us as a human race, that we as a human race have, that we carry, that now needs to be shed. And this event with the Anthony person created the perfect Pluto and Leo exit, which was to leave a legacy through changing humanity by being a vehicle for us to understand how important this is. And even for men that you're listening to this video right now and you're all into the mental sort of sphere of things, there's an absolute essence to get in touch with the feminine side of the self. And that being through ability to communicate one's own emotions and learning how to do that. So we never went to school and got an emotional literacy course. We never had that. And so a lot of us struggle within our lives and relationships and so on and so forth, and struggle with intimacy and struggle with being vulnerable because we have so much unconscious emotional trauma that we carry as a collective that we've not shed, that stops us and prevents us from feeling very unified with other people. And so this is a really powerful chart of the day that kind of drives home that message to say, a big part of something that's really going to be meaningful in your life, that's really going to push the depth of your own existence to be more nourishing, is to look at these layers that are subtly being protected by the ego, which is saying, I don't like this emotion, it makes me feel uncomfortable, it's not safe, I don't know how to communicate it, there's nobody around me, I like to be alone. And really feel that disconnect versus really seeing the potential that Neptune in Pisces is really inviting us to do with Jupiter in Sag and Pluto in Capricorn, which is to dissolve the boundaries of crystallized emotion that separate us in duality, and to unify our experience and to bring more deeper compassion to not only ourselves, to self-reflected empathy, but the capacity to really transmute energy that sometimes didn't begin with us. I know for me personally, when I began to work on shifting a lot of the shame and guilt that I carry within inside of myself, I was like, this was the nonsense that was imprinted on me when I was in my mother's womb, because this is her story. And the moment that I began to process that out, the lighter I felt, and the more I noticed my sensitivities towards these things declined, because I was able to really acknowledge that it is not mine, it is yours, that belongs to you. And that's part of the way of shedding the collective embodiment of this shame and this unhealthy emotional debris that lurks within our subconscious that we don't know until a disease hits us, or until we are met face to face with an experience that brings us straight into our bodies and we go, oh, my body is not doing well because I'm not looking after it, as an example. Fantastic. So I really hope that that was something nourishing for us all today. I really hope that you, really got what I was talking about. And make sure to leave a comment in the comment section. I'd really love to hear your own personal story, how you felt over this experience. I want to hear what you have to say. And don't forget the Learn Your Chart, by the way. In the description and in the comments is a link to go and book your Learn Your Chart. And there's a coupon code. I'll put it on the thing there as well. Fantastic. All right, my friends, have a wonderful evening/day wherever you are, and I'll speak to you again. Take care. Bye-bye.